Welcome everybody back to Gringos Liberados. My name is Trajan. I'm joined by RMC and 4x4 as usual. And I've had, it's partly because I've had a long day at work, everybody, but also because of the rumored sad news that I will be pouring one out very quickly just to start this off. I don't often crack a cold one, as it were, on the podcast, but today is a day where it is needed. And there we go. RMC's already...
It wasn't...
everyone with their own libations of all time.
If it wasn't 10 a.m. on a weekday, I would join you.
That's fair. Yeah, I have a comfortable 6:07 p.m. and therefore it's acceptable for me. And it's no longer day drinking.
It's 6 o'clock somewhere.
That's true.
Exactly.
True.
So, lads, the emoji game has slightly solidified further into a real rumor that Tinowns may be retiring following this split from Loud after 13 years in the scene as a pro, 12, 13 years, something like that. Longest standing player currently playing in Brazil for sure. Probably top 5 globally,
at least, right?
Because he started in season 2, 3.
I think season 3 officially, yeah.
And
2013, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. And Faker's still going, and he's probably at the top, more or less. Impact is still going, but there's not a whole lot else. We've already lost players like Deft. They've already hung up the mouse and keyboard, so he's one of the most OGs that's still gaming, and may have finally decided to stop gaming.
Yeah. And it's crazy that he's our age. Like that's the cutoff point, right? Yeah. Like we grew up with these guys and they are just fully our age, right? Bumping up on 30 or cresting 30. And no, I mean it's a shame. I mean I did a little tweet-a-rooney and cheese on it.
You did?
But
did some numbers.
I did. It did quite the numbies. I was expecting it to do okay, but I wasn't expecting to do like numbies, But no, man. I mean, the "This Is for Kaboom" moment will forever be just one of the more iconic moments in LoL esports. And I mean, I got to interview him in 2022 in Mexico City, and he's just always been incredibly great. I mean, look, a small sample size. I didn't get to interview him that much, but even like last year when we still had kind of access to some of the players, he in answers like those little things that make you feel just like, oh, he's like it just like in any relationship, like I asked him about the AD mid meta when the beginning of the end happened last year, right? In an interview, right? And he didn't he didn't get pissed off. He didn't try to dodge the question, right? He gave me like a real answer, and he said in Portuguese, but he was like, you know what, Henrique, this is what I think is going on, sort of thing. And he used my name, right? And it's just like those little kind of you call that maturity, call that he's a good person, call that both, right? He's just had more time in the scene and know how this this all works, but I don't know, little things like that. He laughed at my jokes when I interviewed him in Mexico City. I've had nothing but extremely positive experiences. Yeah, he's just was nothing but extremely gracious to me, right? It's that old adage, right? People won't always remember what you said, but they'll remember how you made them feel, right? Mm-hmm. And I just got nothing but goodness, nothing but graciousness from Tinowns. I wish him all the best in retirement, right? I think he'll probably do the co-streaming thing for a bit, right? It seems what all the old heads are doing. But yeah, man, I mean, obviously it didn't end, I think, how he wanted it to, but right before the end, he also did something that no one else had ever done, right? He broke the record books left, right, and center. He will be one of the GOATs of this region forever and ever. And yeah, but it is crazy, to your point, how that first generation of CBLOL mid laners of Kami, Takeshi, and Tinowns, right? One of them finally retired. There have been so many legitimately awesome mid laners that have come and gone, and Tinowns only just retired.
Yep.
Yeah. And now that means that the oldest or the most experienced player, I guess, is actually now Robo. 2015 Split 2 was his debut. Yeah. That means there's nobody left from that. 2015 split one and then before,
Yeah.
there are no players left from that time.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. There's no Macau. There's no Jockster. There's no Tinowns. Maybe. There's maybe no Tinowns. There's no BRTT.
Retired,
Yep. It's a new day. It's a new day. But ultimately, when even as close as a couple of splits ago, we would still end up at the end of the split just going, Tinowns is just the best mid again, isn't he? Like, it's just Tinowns. Like, even
like,
when it was like
worst
Howls
top
and
three.
Maleko and all this, and Dinkado and all this stuff, it's like, let's just put Tinowns at the top. Let's be honest, guys. Let's just put Tinowns at the top, and let's work out the others, because, like, this guy is just, he's just him. So, it was such longevity, and, had started to struggle in the last few splits, and by struggle I mean wasn't obviously the best mid anymore, but was not, like, he didn't have a BRTT on Kaboom split, or was it Loss? Sorry, was it Loss?
Or Loss, yeah.
On Los.
Yeah,
like,
Loss, yeah.
He's not actually had a proper stinker, but, like, this era of Loud feels like, to me, it's kind of winding down, and I think it's run its course. And we'll see how much Loud agrees with that. But I think that's just kind of, he's not leaving on top, but he's not leaving on the bottom either. I think it's just maybe an identification that I think this is now the time. I think he maybe doesn't have the fire or drive or whatever to try and make it back to the top, which is always, after so long, is a big ask from anybody.
Yeah, getting to the top is one thing, staying there is another, right?
Yeah, for that long. And that also means our mid lane pool in the south is a lot younger.
Yes.
Like,
No
who's
Dinkado,
left,
no
right? We've
Tinowns.
Dinkado retiring last split. So we've got Fu, Tuts, Cody, Romer,
Miryu.
Miru, Kissy, and whoever the hell Red's mid laner is. Mago, Call, Greftar, both of them are young.
Yeah.
That means...
And even Greftar, like,
Greftar's
he's
like the oldest one.
Yeah.
Is Daddy Greftar?
Greftar's the old man now.
Tuts is...
Well, Tuts is like a baby, though. He's like 22 or
Yes,
something.
yeah, I mean,
or 3.
Yeah, in terms of
age-wise.
Yeah. Greftar is like the OAP of mid lane now, and he's like, what, 25 or something? Like...
But in terms of experience, that puts Cody and Tuts at the top. At 2020 was their split one, was their tier 1 debut in CBLOL and LA respectively. So
yeah.
Wow.
And I don't know how long Miryu has been around, to be honest. I'm not actually sure when Miryu started playing pro, or like was in some form of the top tiers.
He was in academy for a while, right? Like, I don't know his prior experience in Korea, but I know in LA he only showed up in what, 2022, 2023, only a couple of years ago.
Yeah. Quick check. Well, he's only 24, so there's only so old that he could be.
Okay, he played for Hanwha Life in LCK 2020 summer, but he was splitting time with Lava.
Oh no!
Oh, two goats of the region, dude.
It seems like he was on Estral and R7 back in 22-23, so he's been around for like 3. So has been in, stopped off in TCL for a bit and for LFL for a bit, but has
as one does.
Yeah, so definitely younger, but not fresh in the same way that Fu is, in the same way that Kissy, Romer for sure, Kissy maybe.
Kissy's an odd one, right?
Yeah. So
like, Kaze will be next split.
Yes. So this is like, if we're looking, we need a new mid laner now because we've lost one. We lost one. So we spoke about this a little bit when we were drafting players and just thinking about what the mid lane pool is, and Kaze just has to be the first one that comes to mind right now. He is,
but Red renewed their contract with him,
so he is fresh in the minds because Red Academy just won CD. They just completed Giga Stomping CD is maybe a more accurate way to put it. I believe RMC told us before we went live they didn't drop a game in that campaign.
Yeah, in the playoffs. Not a single game. That was insane.
Which is because in the regular season they were running Greftar Aegis and there was Doom involved and there was Mago. Did Mago actually play any CD games? I don't think he did, right? I don't think.
No, in the beginning, right?
But so they had Greftar and then Kaze, and they've had 3 mid laners floating around this whole time. But playoffs, they'd settled on this, and it seems like a good choice because Kaze is lit.
Certainly vindicated,
brother. He is lit.
But Kaze has tier 1 experience. Right?
Yes.
So he played on Isrus last year, year before, last year.
Yeah, pre 4 CEOs.
Yeah. So 2024. So last year he was on that, and then he did the crazy mercenary thing we're talking about, where he's played on 5 different teams across 3 different regions, this year alone. In tier 2.
This year,
let that sink in. What an insane statistic
we haven't had
what
2
a
splits
run,
yet,
dude.
and he's on 5 teams.
Yeah.
And the first split
So
was
played,
barely a split.
he played in CD qualifiers on Gwenchana, and then he played in the LRS qualifiers on GE. That's where they went off to, and actually qualified on the LRS side. And then for some odd reason, he then went to play an LRN on Infinity. And then he went back to LRS on.
He just loves qualifying for tier 2. He doesn't like playing in tier 2.
Win events.
Yeah,
I think.
And okay, so Infinity placed 3rd in LRN, by the way. Then he went down to Farenven in LRS, which was GE, which qualified basically. And I believe Farenven picked them up, so it's the same, most of the same roster. So he went back down to play for them in LRS. They placed 1st, and then he went in the same split. He played for WAP in the LRS, who placed 3rd. It's like I don't know what this guy's doing, and then he won CD on Red Academy. So I don't know how or why he's playing these teams, but they're all doing really, really well. Like, this guy's really good.
The definition of a plug and play mid laner, by the sound of it, if you can join 5 teams and find success on basically all of them to some degree, that's crazy. And especially the way he plays as well is not like subservient to the team. He's a resource-heavy mid laner.
No, he's a dude.
He is a classical mid carry.
I wouldn't even call him resource-heavy. Like, he gets his own resources. He doesn't really need his jungler to do stuff for him. He just wins lane and then kills people. Like, his assassins are nuts.
Simplifies it past the resource question. I'm just going to win lane and kill people. Don't ask me if I need farm or if you need to hold away for. I don't care. Just do whatever you want. I'm going to win lane and kill people. Okay. So. The very classical ideas of mid lane's role, perhaps. And this is... But it is interesting that someone who is so kind of individualistic, potentially, maybe it works because he's not necessarily engaging with what the team does and is just so strong in mid that you just don't have to worry about it anymore. Or perhaps there is a genuine, like, notable talent for just fitting into a new group of 5 that... ends up kind of, this is a CD team. It's these players haven't been playing together as this stack for a long time. It's just not really how Academy works in any reason. Like, they don't stay together that long as rosters. Very, very rarely do they. And has managed to come into this red roster, which has been chaotic at best in terms of players and subs. And he comes in and they're like, this is it. And then they just sprint to 1st and don't drop a games in playoffs.
Well, I will say for Red Academy specifically, they are not a chaotic team. They're actually really organized normally. They have better macro than majority of our LTA
So off the rift chaotic. On the Rift, sure. But off the Rift chaotic, just with all the subs and all the changes and the speculation even as to where their like players are going to be playing which roster week to week. Like, it can't have been that easy for Red's backroom staff and for just Uzent just chilling there going like, what am I doing this week? Am I like following Aegis around? Am I setting up a play for Doom? Like, what am I doing on this Rakan? Please help me. So, but no, so Red have come through that very, very well. But Kaze has been a superstar in the mid lane, right? And we've had Fu come up as a recent very high performer in the mid lane that we're still happy with after, despite Fluxy W7M split, we're still very happy with how Fu did, at least I am. And, Margot, I think, is a work in progress, is not a lost cause by any means. He's kind of like sort of a Scamber-esque kind of person for me, where like he came in and I was like, this guy's got some stuff. He's for sure good, but like, we're not quite at the level yet, or whatever we're doing isn't really working here, but like this guy is not witless. Like we have something we can do here. So, and Scamber is now still developing. I really liked how he played on Fluxu when he had a brief stint on Fluxu with Reaper or Kojima, I think it was, with Kojima, and then like now he's still playing on BKS Academy, I think, that was in the final, I believe.
Yep. Yes.
There's still a lot of value to being in CD. I think it's a pretty decent in terms of like strength of players. There's some good names down there. There's always good talent coming through it. So there's still room for Margot, basically. And I want to see Margot sticking around somewhere, I guess is my point.
Yeah. Well, the problem for Margot specifically, but the boon for Loud is that there is a pretty deep mid lane pool right now available in Brazil. I mean, I don't know if you've heard of this player. I know that his team kind of struggled a little bit in CD, but
I was about to say it. Don't say it. I know where he's
Don't do this to him, dude.
I'm sorry. I had to. And Takui, guys, is still in Brazil, as far as I know. Like, he's not playing in CD, but he's still under the Kaboom IDL. Like,
yeah. Well, didn't he go back to deal with like health issues?
Well, he stepped down due to like mental pressure and mental health issues.
Right, but I think there was something physical about his condition that had deteriorated.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I don't know. I just know that he's still under like contract with IDL, Kaboom IDL. So I feel like he's probably like the top guy to pick up. And then there's Leleko, who did really well after his boot camp initially, and then it feels like he's kind of fallen apart. I feel like his hands are there. He just needs a team. Like, he needs people to teach him how to play the game a bit better. Like within a team. Like, I think his solo queue skills are undeniable. Envy is down there as well, and while he's struggled some, I think again his mechanics are really solid. Pilot is down there.
Like way down there.
Way down at the bottom. Way down there.
But he was the best performing player along with Ninja Kiwi. Pilot, Ninja Kiwi Elo, like Elo Hell, Ninja Kiwi Award and Pilot Award is a thing. Quats is still one of the best talents, mid lane talents who still hasn't had a shot at tier 1. MG. There's a Korean import in CD too in the mid lane.
Oh, dude, MG. I saw that Akali play. He had a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. Los's mechanics are good. It's just that they don't set up properly. But individually, I mean, most of their players are worth picking up. And MG being an import, I feel like would be somebody that teams might want to watch out for. So the mid pool is pretty deep. Loud has options as to what they want to do. I just hope that Loud actually just full rebuilds and doesn't try and do the whole
it's time.
Dangerous man thing again.
It's time to rebuild it. Please.
And I think it's going to be fascinating how they go about their rebuild, because it rarely works when you have just like a full rookie roster. Like you need some semblance of like a shepherd, right? So what old head do you throw a bunch of money at to just be like, look, we just need you to like herd the cats? Because I think that will be necessary, because otherwise it's going to be a mess.
Yeah, keep Robo for skill by all means. I don't think Robo though is the type like the veteran will train up a younger.
No.
Yeah, I mean it would just come down to whether Robo wants to do that. Because I think he could, right? I mean, I can speak it up to his personality of like how good of a teacher is he, right? But obviously he has a ton to teach. He's gone through some of the highest highs and the lowest lows that a player can go through in Brazil.
True, he's got a lot of experience.
Right.
I would have said Yampy, but then this split.
The stock is in the floor.
Yeah.
It's the kind of thing that, like, if he hadn't decided to be the MVP again, it's the kind of thing that Karaoke, I think, could be very good at. But, like, and there's been plenty of times when Pain are like, it's time to get rid of Karaoke. And you're like, okay, like, if they ever had, and he was now available, I think he's a guy who could probably be an excellent leader, just by his style, his pool, and the experience that he has. But then he decided to be the MVP again, so he's not going anywhere. Like, he's too busy winning the split, I'm afraid.
Actually, okay, this was something that Farfar and I talked a little bit about on Sunday. In a world where Karaoke didn't pick up, Tatu would have been his replacement.
Yeah.
Do you think Pain would look better with Tatu as their jungler?
No.
I think they'd look the same, honestly. But Tatu would be dancing on their side of the stage and not the other one. Because, like, Tati was still playing, like, Skarner and Zin, and, like, he's not playing, like... They had to really force him to play Neferi, it seems.
He didn't play Skarner. What's the problem? Like Borfor was begging him to play Skarner, and then he should Pantheon game 4.
Look, you all, if anyone who watched the broadcast knows my thoughts on Pantheon. But
took the Skarner out with the appendix over the weekend, unfortunately, so... It's gone.
Yeah, there was no infection. It was just Skarner.
Yeah, that's what the appendix does. It actually makes you good at playing Skarner in League, and that's the useless organ.
And then you have to choose between one or the other. Yeah. Would you like to live, or would you like to play Skarner? And Tatu chose life, and I could never get mad at anyone for that.
That's fair. If you ask Captain Flowers, maybe we'd lose him, but like that's Tatu.
Maybe farewell.
Yeah, he stood on business to the very end. I respect it.
I think there is something to the I I don't. Do we think that Pain Gaming is the best environment for a rookie to kind of, thrive in? Because I don't think that Pain would have been the same, or that Tatu would have performed as well. Maybe, right? But given that, integrating one new player is tough enough when you're Pain or anybody, and then integrating two is a whole separate deal. But then, I think Tatu has a relatively pressure-free environment to just develop in, right? So I don't think it would have been plug and chug on Pain. Far from it. Look, maybe. And honestly, it'd be sick if that was the case. But I have a hard time getting there personally.
That's fair. I do. Okay, I personally don't. I think Pain's one of the worst environments for rookies, completely actually, because the pressure from the fans is just insane. Even Roma right now is getting probably the most chill reception you could probably get on Pain Gaming. Yeah. Nobody's calling for his head, despite the fact that he's not really showing too much more than what we've seen from Takedo in the past. He's improving. Don't get me wrong. And I think that's what's keeping people relatively chill. But even relatively chill is still a lot of pressure. That said, Tatu feels like he's built different, man. The guy thrives under pressure. So I think he'd have done well on Pain. As good as Furia, I don't know. To be fair, I think Furia and Cade are probably the two best orgs for rookies.
Yeah.
Yeah, the back room is just so good. And it depends. Yeah. Zero definitely has a very clear vision for Pain, and always has done, and it has been pretty consistent over the years now. But it's always been with it's been so that the players have been so used to each other, and they've got so much longevity now. And the biggest change was going from B-Voy type to Titan type AD carry, right? And they had to bring the new support to make that work, but it wasn't like they suddenly started playing crazy Titan played on red. It meant that suddenly Titan had all of the edges sanded off and had the downsides taken away, and was still dominating in lane, but wasn't doing crazy stuff later. Titan fit more into the Pain box to my head than Pain fit into the Titan box, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, okay.
Because they've always had carry AD carries B-Voy and these players that, and not Trigo. Let's
yeah, I was gonna say Trigo
that. They were, but they recently they had a carrying bot laner in B-Voy who can play Kai'Sa and Varus and be a late game win condition. And Titan obviously is the biggest late game win condition we have.
Yeah,
he's a very different style of player minute to minute, but you can still bet on him in the same way, I think, and you can pick him largely similar things as well. You don't have to pick him Titan specific champions necessarily to get value out of him. So it feels more like Titan became more like Pain than Pain became more like Titan, I guess, which was the question for me is Pain going to become psychotic, or is Titan going to become tidied up? And I think it was the latter.
Yeah, but it's funny you talk about the backroom and Zero as well, because I don't know if you all watch the behind the scenes stuff for teams. I watch mostly Pain. I know Cade usually puts some out as well.
Yeah, I watch the Cade.
And Zero looks so stressed, man. They're winning, and Zero is unhappy with everything.
Well, yeah,
and I don't fault him because their
that's how you feel, honestly. That's how you feel every week. Especially recently watching Pain is you're relieved but upset. That's kind of the usual.
Yeah.
He's just a Pain fan. That's all Zero is. He's just a Pain Zeche man. That's just how they're all It's just he's just a true Pain head. Right. Let's talk a little bit about the games. Because we started talking about Pain, we're talking about Furia, and let's start with Pain Furia. Start top of the bracket. We won't go chronologically. So Pain and Furia again was 2-2 in games coming in.
Yep.
And they had felt like the definitive top two going into playoffs. As playoff progressed, it seemed like that was the case with how easily they dispatched their first rounds, with how crazy and messy the lower bracket has been in this event. But Tatu had his appendix out. He seemed fine on stage. Let's be honest, guys. Yeah. I'm not gonna act 100%. Like he was limping out onto the stage or anything. But did claim to be playing through some residual pain on the day, which is fair enough because he had surgery. And Pain still achieved a 3-1 victory that, if you watch it, was probably a 3-0 in reality.
Yeah.
Because a certain players in that first game.
Call it out, freaking Romer, man.
Romer really just got sick of playing League that day very early on and decided to run it down on Ari about 40 odd minutes in or something. I think earlier,
that's a shame because his Ari game up until that point was
very
actually
good. And earlier in that game,
a lot of really good charm.
There were other players who had made completely like, "What are you doing?" type plays in that game. Romer's was sadly the one that lost Pain the game. And it's the one that will be remembered.
Held them through the mid game, held them through all the other mistakes.
Yes,
Romer was doing a fantastic. If you look at the post game, right? I think Romer probably had the highest KDA. He was like 6-2 and 6 on his team. He looked fantastic, phenomenal. And if you only look at the post game, you would never think that Romer was the guy who Pain's actually been calling to investigate his PayPal account. Because like, it was just like, what on earth was that throw? You just have to wait not even 30 seconds, like 20 something seconds for Elder to expire, and you would have won that game. Instead, he just randomly dashed in. It was like, brother, what is going on? Like, who told you to do that?
Yeah, that was...
Yeah, he got Oriana jailed for that in game 2, and I was just like...
That was so funny. That was so
funny. I'm out
funny.
corner for you right now. You need to
actually sit in the corner, think about what you've done.
Yep.
Yeah. That was not so hot.
Yeah. That it absolutely should have been a 3-0. Props to Furia, though. I do think that Furia's top side, Gigo and Tatu, were their best performers that series. Like, despite the pain, if you didn't tell me Tatu was in pain or that he just has his appendix out, I've just been like, oh, this is classic Tatu. Did very well, got early pressure, did what his team needed to do. Gigo won the Rumble Galio matchup, and like his Yorick game in game 3, he was just Thanos for the bulk of that game. Gigo was hard carrying. Gigod was in attendance that day.
Yeah.
But Tuts, Ayu, and Jojo, man, like, okay, not Jojo, that's not fair to Jojo, but Tuts and Ayu felt like they didn't deliver this series.
Yeah.
Like, Tuts lost to Romer more often than not.
And Tuts spent a lot of time picking up side waves in that series. It was more like previous Furia Tuts, where he's always like 10 seconds late to every play because he's picking up another wave kind of thing. And then it doesn't matter if he's getting side towers and he's doing important macro by doing this, but he never ends up showing up to the big moment because he's either late or he's just not there. He's just like in a side lane. And we never see any... Because we've seen Tuts with big pop-offs mechanically this split quite a lot. He's first All-Pro on the official rankings, first All-Pro mid, and I think deservedly so. We saw a lot more active Tuts, but this series was not that. We just didn't really see him at all. He was PvEing on that day.
Yeah. No, I mean, I've... What about I?
I was gonna say, and what about like where was Ayu?
Yeah,
not
a great series for Ayu.
I think he was getting gapped,
which is
man.
not okay. When we keep talking about Ayu, it's like, well, gap is one thing, right?
But he's getting Titan gapped just a little bit.
That badly?
Yeah, kind of. I think this is an Ayu thing at this point. It's not like he's not bad. He looks notably worse against Pain than he does against everyone else, and this is either a Titan Curry thing.
It's just PTSD then,
or
like, it's just that one specific bot lane he can't deal with.
So he can't deal with the best bot lane, which is fair enough. But like, maybe it's a problem that if he's not able to like manhandle his opponent, maybe it's a problem with how he loses games. Like in the same way that you can, at the very least in Split 1 and now more in Split 2, even if you put Snaker in like a losing lane, when he's playing properly, you expect to still get an AD carry out at the end of it. Whereas Ayu doesn't seem to really work that way. Like, you don't really get... It's rare that you get like a comeback. Ayu has been 2v2'd out of the game and comes back later. You just kind of don't see him again, like, quite often. Like, I can only think of one time where we have, which was like a Lucian game, I think, versus VKS. But that's when whole teams are built around him and like enabling him, right? And just in Titan Curry, he doesn't outperform them in 2v2, and then we just we don't see him again. I just think he's very he settles down into a very kind of invisible position against Pain and Titan Curry, and I'm not really sure why, but maybe some of it's mental, maybe some of it is just like a problem in his gameplay where he isn't able to play the game as effectively from behind. I don't know, but it's just against Pain. We see this happen against Pain over and over. Like, Ayu disappears.
Jojo thought had a good game. He just found
Yeah.
some
Jojo's
good
fine,
engages.
Yeah, I
He's
think
trying, man.
the rough games that JoJo has is more often than not just that he's the primary engage. So
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
It's
what
just
can
like a
you do?
1 in 10 Nautilus game kind of moment, It's just like, well, I have one job and I can't really do it now, so I have to keep trying to do
The
it.
alternative is
I'm not going to
you
do
sit here and
nothing,
die.
but this isn't going to go well.
Yeah, I did like his bar pick in game 4 because it felt like that could get around the whole like, oh well, I'm just gonna go in and die because
Yeah.
the hell else am I supposed to do? Where you can just like, okay, I can go in and not die, or like somebody else can go die instead,
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I don't know. It's there were games as well. It's not like Furia got stomped all 3 games, all 4 games. Like they stole a win in game 1, which arguably there were times when they were ahead and then messed up themselves. It was kind of a back and forth that Furia just ended up. It was late enough in the game that when the next throw came around, it was Payne's turn and Furia wins. So it's just kind of a messy game, in my opinion. But I think even later on in the series, like Furia they were able to mount good. I think it was second game actually, where they had like a 5K lead or something in the second game.
Game 3.
Game 3,
Yeah,
they had a
that was the
5K lead or
Thanos
something,
game, yeah.
and it just kind of slipped away from them piece by piece, and that is rare for Furia. Like, seeing them lose a lead that size, like, you almost never see that. And it's either, I don't know if it's a pressure thing, if it's a pain thing, if they're losing a sense of like that really cohesive game plan that they tend to bring, or if Pain are just like that level of that sort of loud-esque, like they can find a window anywhere, like they can find a break or an opportunity anywhere, and they've got the skill to push it through. I don't know, the game 3 lead evaporated, and by the time it was gone, I was like, I barely even knew where it had gone. I was like, how did we?
Yeah.
Where did it go? Weren't we 5K up like 10 minutes ago? Like, what? How did this happen?
Like, yes, Pain of all the factors you need to win, right? Like, the clutch factor has never been in doubt with players like Titan and Weiser and Karyoka, especially Curry. But I think the other big issue this series was also draft for me. And that I blame on Thinkard. I've spoken to Thinkard about drafting before, and he likes to give his players a lot of agency in draft in terms of like what they want to play. But I do feel like the drafts that they were picking have very narrow win conditions, and this has been a thing for Furia this entire split. They're the only team that regularly runs damage overload compositions, and the problem with damage overload compositions is, well, your players have to be really good to execute them.
Yeah.
If your players aren't the better players, those drafts don't work. And even in this series, like game 1 was the most, in a way, cohesive draft, I guess, in terms of like the comp wanting to do its own thing together as a whole. Game 2 was a skilling composition, which was fine, but zero bridge. Game 3 was the one where I remember looking at the draft and just going like, I don't see how Fury plays this draft. And then they got into game. Gigo Thanos so hard they got ahead, and I went, well, okay, now I see how you play this, right? You've got so much agency, and you're so far ahead that theoretically Pain shouldn't be able to get back in. And then freaking, I think it was Tatu and Jojo who went on Karyoka and blew everything on a Poppy and couldn't kill Karyoka. And it was like,
they were
oh crap, here we go.
Pretty hard in that game, I guess. They were like, I don't know.
And then the lead dropped from, what was it, 6K or 5K you were talking about, down to like 2K. It was like more than halved off that one play. And the moment that happened, it's like, oh crap, here we go. This is where your comp can't play anymore. Because you've got 4 champions who don't really want a team fight, but you can't do anything else. And then you've got a Yurt that's going to split push in a meta where split push will never win you the game solo. And it comes down to team fight, and you can't team fight. And what happens from here? And then Pain just kind of ran them over. Also, Titan Kalista is disgusting. Somehow, Kalista is not an early game champion when Titan plays it. I don't know. I don't really understand how. Like, I actually reviewed how Titan was playing that, and I was just like, he's getting free hits, which he shouldn't be allowed to get. And I don't understand why.
And he's still building like Jack Show 4th, and he just keeps doing damage. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, maybe it's just because Furia doesn't build any tanks. I don't know. But it's like maybe it's because they have these like they're so squishy all the time that Kalista ends up more relevant. But it does feel like Titan's Kalista just does more damage. I don't know. He's just got mods installed or something. Like, he just is. It's crazy, dude. He's like the only guy who's regularly pulling it out still right now. I mean, it gets banned a lot still, but like we see it. Somehow he's the only guy who gets it, which is like crazy that if anyone, let's not give it to him. But he looks so crazy on it every time. It's so godlike whenever Titan pulls it out.
Yeah, it's so sick.
Yeah, it reminds me of like old Draven in Brazil, where like Brazil is very good at shutting down Draven in lane, and everywhere else in the world, it's like you see Draven, it's an early game champion. In Brazil, it's a ticking time bomb, and mid game is the dangerous part when he gets his first kill. Like Titan's Kalista feels that way, where it's like it should be an early game champion, and then somehow like he doesn't win the lane. Like Ayu Jojo Tatu do a great job shutting him down. and then rolls around to like 30 minutes, and suddenly like Titans just like, I don't know, it's because it becomes Jinx or something. Like it just does tons of team fight damage. Like Sivir, it just wrecks everybody. It's crazy.
Yeah,
it's weird.
I don't know. I always come away from these. I came away from this series thinking I don't feel like we saw the best Furia, and it's. But I don't want to diminish Pain's achievement for being able to like
100%.
come back from a 5k deficit against Furia to, yes, they scuppered themselves in game 1, but they almost brought that one all the way back, having had again like a bad early game. Like, I think that we need to give appropriate credit to Pain, because it's not like Furia were asleep.
Yeah.
But they didn't feel quite put together in the same way they did against VKS, which was just unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's unfortunate because you look back at that and you go, oh, wait. Especially with the way they got dumped out against Surge, you go, oh, maybe it's just Cade. It's just not that good.
It's just another step of the, are you good or did you beat the
are
next
you good
team
or did you...
who got knocked out?
No, and it's genuinely unfortunate because it's like you're looking ahead and you're like, are we a 1-team region? Like right now, we might be.
I think we're a 3-team region. And we used to be like a 4 or 5-team region like 2 splits ago.
Yeah, it's crazy because again, that was a conversation we would always have about like with Loud, right? Like because even when Loud was winning, we were and it was true, we were not a 1-team region because Loud also never won a regular season title. So we could go into every single playoffs being like, look, apart from their voodoo, they could lose, right? They're fallible. But it doesn't seem like anyone's got the chops to challenge Pain right now.
Yeah. It's like we should be a 4-team region, but we're a 3-team region because Cade Stars is just bottling it, sadly.
Yeah.
This split especially too, it just was really annoying because it was way more competitive in like the positioning phase, and it feels like as we went further in, teams were falling off rather than teams were like still went up necessarily.
Yeah, I agree.
With the exception of I think Furia's shipping up now, and I don't even feel like they're getting worse. I just think Pain's just accelerated.
Yeah,
and figured out.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like I think Pain just went.
But
yeah,
Pain I think has gotten back to where they should be after a little shakiness. But they've always been like realistically at the top. Furia, I think, have always been there, but they've always had that little 10% failing factor that means they lose against Lev in the first round, and then they like lose against who did they lose against? Fluxu, right? And like there's always that little bit of Furia where they can have off days and they can like lose themselves in the sauce a little bit. So it's very consistently high with occasional notable drop off. And then Isra Astral obviously started in the bin and went from the top and then to the bin and is now back up to where they are. So,
but like Loud, Cade, Red, all of them just
dude, they.
I mean, Lev randomly fell off after split 1. I mean, they fell really early in the split, so we didn't feel it as much. But if we think about how split 1 went and we just think about the year as a whole, Lev's fall is one of the most brutal falls we've seen.
Yeah, and then Fluxy got a bit better. Thumbs up. Thumbs up, Fluxu.
They're improving.
Solid. Love that.
I like it, yeah.
Love that.
Fluxu and Pain are the only 2 teams with a consistent upward trajectory.
You mean Pain and Pain Gaming Academy of the team.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go. Exactly. What do you know? Okay, so is there anything else on Pain Furia? Because it just felt like Pain is doing this. Pain still feels really locked in right now. They feel really clean. They should have 3-0'd it. They did have a big roamer goof that let them 3-1 it. But again, they had to work hard for the wins that they get, except for game 2, where it just that was just a flop from Furia again. The draft, I think you're absolutely right, RMC. The biggest takeaway for me is it was some of the toughest draft situations that Furia finds himself in. Even when they do draft weird stuff, it seems like it always just works and it's a good idea, but a strange idea. And this one, it just did not. The plans did not seem great in that Pain series. But does anyone else?
To be fair, I think against any other team, those drafts would probably.
Yeah, I think they're just good enough that the vision shines through, but not against Pain, sadly. All right, IEVKS. I mean, this isn't a particularly complex one. VKS folded like an origami swan under a boot heel, and IE are just. It's the same story again for like the last 3 weeks. IE steps up, opponent folds. IE steps up, opponent folds. IE steps up, opponent folds. And it was just like, how did we ever believe that Snaker and Ackerman should be dropped? How did we ever have doubts about Summit? How did we ever think that anything was wrong with this perfect team, bro? They're just gonna win again. They're just gonna win again.
Oh, okay, so to be fair to Cade Sessions, well, they might have folded like an origami crane under a boot, but there was a needle hidden inside. Game 2 was actually really close. Cade should have won Game 2, but IE just clutched it out hard. Like, I wouldn't even say if Cade threw it, IE just clutched it out hard. But they were winning Game 2. We should, to be fair to Cade, we should probably highlight that as well.
Remember when I said last week that we could be sitting here about Asurus Estral and being like, are they good or have they just not beaten anyone actually good? And, you know, depending on how Cade look, we could be sitting here saying the exact same thing.
Yeah. And
that's kind of how I feel. Yeah. Like, I every time Furia, like, every IE game, I look forward to that one being like, this is going to be fascinating because right now, finally, they're going to be playing someone good. Man, when they play Furia next week, this is going to be fascinating because they're actually playing someone good now.
Oh, I really hope
was
it
it
is
Snaker who was like saying in the post-game interview that he's like really looking forward to facing like Pain of Furia, potentially Pain in the grand finals? Like,
certainly confident.
Yeah, like I'm actually really looking forward to this because IE is skilling up harder than any other team, and they're looking like they're coming back in form. Snaker, I mean, he's fully embracing the whole scaling idea again, and that's
Snaker's playing his balls off, man. What a great series from him.
I'm just adding up his KDA because it's absolutely obscene.
He died.
It's a KDA of 17.67 in that series. One death each game, monstrous numbers. And again, it's on like Xayah and Senna and Ezreal. It's not even just like all one type anymore. It's not even supportive stuff every game anymore. It's just like completely.
No, he's just kind of balling out.
He's balling out. He's completely balling out. Yeah. Like it's bonkers how the glow up here.
Snaker is the highest LTA fantasy points player.
Oh, I bet he was. Yeah, he had a 14 kill Ezreal game. Jeez, bro.
Yeah. And when Snaker's playing well, it actually really unlocks Ackerman. That was kind of my takeaway watching the games was like, hey, if Snaker's playing well, suddenly Ackerman's allowed to just roam, right? And you can leave Snaker in the 1v2 situation. Ackerman can go work with Jose Deodo, and suddenly Miru is on cloud 9 because Miru gets so much traffic through his lane, right?
Yeah,
Jose Deodo loves ganking, so there's always going to be like the jungle pressure. And then suddenly Ackerman to get to an objective, half the time has to pass through mid lane anyway. So it's just like, okay, I'm here. Let's just kick something off. And Miru's like, hell yeah. All right, like I'm on Azir. I can full on this. I'm on Aurora. We can like one-shot this guy. And then Miru suddenly gets the pop-off as well. And that to me is the winning formula for Asurus Estral. Miru on a carry, getting his assists. Jose Deodo on a carry, which can hard carry games like Lee Sin, or even his Trundle actually, almost like a carry the way he was playing it. And Ackerman unleashed to roam. Like that's their winning strategy.
It was so funny when they banned Lee Sin in that series. Like, they're actually like aura checking VKS at this point. Like this completely useless champion that nobody picks in pro and hasn't for like 2 straight years. That only Jose brings out and we were casting it and waiting for like the game 3 or the game 4 Lee Sin. Like you're not allowed to pick it because we want to flex on you with this at the last game again. Didn't even get a chance. They just swept them away 3-0, man. Like, dude.
To be fair, with the Viego ban, I do think they were worried about DeSamus being a carry, so they actually banned out like
that's a real ban. Viego's a real ban against DeSamus for sure. Like Lee Sin is not a real ban against anybody at this point right now.
Except Jose Deodo.
Except Jose Deodo, I guess. Yeah, dang. Dude, it's so Snaker has just remembered how to play again, but like he's had a very nice gradual run up in terms of increasing AD carry pressure down in the bot lane. But again, had absolutely no problem with Morteus and Trimby, it seems.
He's literally scaling.
And we're going to see him pick, like, Jinx of Helios against Furia, and then he's going to be picking Smolder and... I don't know what else scales harder than Jinx. Sivir, right, against Pain, and we're just going to sweep. That's the game plan. Miryu as well, I want to put special note on, because this was, like, premium 1v1 dominant Miryu, but somehow, I don't know if VKS just, like, got lost on the way to mid lane. They sometimes tried to do something about it, but not nearly as much as it feels like they needed to, because it feels like Miryu was able to completely manhandle Kissy with more or less no one stopping him for large parts of the series. And whenever they did, it somehow seemed like he was able to just 2v1 them without any even lifting a finger, or just walk away without a problem. Like, he was in front of Kissy's tower, large stretches of that entire series, and it feels like he was never properly punished for it, like almost never, ever, which is crazy. Like, we just don't see people playing mid like that. You don't see people just sitting in front of the opponent's tower like all game long that way, and he was playing in the way that seems most natural to him, which is right up in your face, and it worked really, 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 really well. Like, that game 2 that was almost turned around on them, large parts of it was like a big comeback from VKS because Kissy was scaling on Victor. But if you look at the goal graph, it's like big IE, and then it goes all the way back to VKS, and then IE remembering at the end because they just kind of stopped VKS from actually winning it. But Miryu's rise is like completely giga gapping that game for most of it, and it was refreshing to see Miryu play in that way and not getting caught out and dying a lot, which is what I feel like he was doing before, which was still playing that way, but actually giving up as good as he took. But now he was just like pure upside. I'm just going to play like the most greedy, like oppressive way possible, and and it worked so well, which I don't know if, again, this is a Kissy problem, if this is a Kissy continuing to just fall off as seems to have been happening, and if he's not going to be allowed to do this against Tuts, against Romer. But I don't. It felt like it was just Miryu's day to do whatever he wanted, and he was godlike.
Yeah, no notes. Yeah, it felt like no one on Cade really showed up. And if CL turns this into a top 3, top 2 roster, it'll be one of the greatest miracle jobs, in my opinion, because if they make no changes and markedly improve, I think that'll be astounding, because right now it feels like they're just capped, because it has been 2 best of 5s in a row where it's just been nothing. It's just been like, they just look completely outclassed, which we haven't seen that from a VKS team since the 3G lineup, and even then they didn't look completely outclassed. It was evident that they were bad, or not bad. They were worse than their opponents. Sorry, not the right. They were worse than their opponents, but they never looked just completely out of it. Even that.
I don't even think that they looked bad. I thought they just looked very red. the 3G roster, like that to me was like red taken to its illogical conclusion, where we just decided to double down on just absolute chaos and zero discipline. Yeah. So yeah, but I agree with what we're saying. Like this Cade roster has issues. I know we keep talking about Kissy. Excuse me. Kissy definitely, like, yeah, I don't know if they don't trust him, and maybe that's why DeSamus and Trimby aren't ganking for him as much. Like, I don't know what's going on there, but Bull as well was struggling this series. It wasn't just the mid lane; it was the solo lanes as a whole. And with Bull, I wonder if teams might have just figured him out.
Yeah,
like we know how to shut him down. Just play for lane. The Yorick pick, I think, is actually something that's going to really mess Bull up nowadays, because he likes to win lane and then go on from there to be a carry. Against Yorick, that doesn't work. And
nope.
I don't know.
He opts out of playing the video game.
Yeah.
Like he not only opts out of playing the video game, but he takes the top laner with him and just like, no, we're just playing. You know,
he dominates
he mortals him to a sidewave.
Walks away from the wreckage with washes his hands of it and doesn't like care about it anymore. It's like you can't even get him back at the end. Like,
if Bull can't play Yorick, then I don't think Bull gets to play the game, and I don't think Cade knows how to play without a top side, without solo lanes, right?
Yeah.
And then suddenly Morteus, who I think Morteus and Trimby have been doing phenomenally this split. Again, if not for the existence of Tatu, I think Morteus is probably rookie of the split. But yeah, if suddenly Morteus gets all the attention focused on him because their top side is not applying any pressure, then what happens, right? Then I think we're seeing this sort of fold situation of Cade where they don't have a winning lane, they can't do anything. DeSamus is trying to put out fires left and right. He's back to Fireman DeSamus, but that's never how DeSamus wins games, right? Like that's how.
No.
Yeah, he needs to carry.
That's how he kind of made a name for himself, but it's high level DeSamus. That can't be your only thing you do.
Yeah. I maybe.
Do you think they make a change?
I was about to say, is it time for VKS Fu?
Maybe, man. Like, okay, I know Kissy. Like, there was talks about like Kissy being under a lot of pressure and he has to perform. Do we think his performance is enough to save his job?
I think it depends entirely on CL.
I think so.
Well, do you think
seriously, because
his
he
performance justifies his job? Let's put it that way.
They said they were gonna win, didn't they? Didn't they say they were gonna win a split this year?
Yeah.
CL needs to stop tweeting, dude. Like,
I get saying ambitious goals, but
Yeah, it's just like don't like. It's like I said last time. Like he's got a flair for the dramatic, for better or worse. It's all or nothing with that dude. Like, and in that sense, he fits in perfectly in Brazil. He's such an emotional gamer. It is 880. It's 8 or 80.
Hell yeah, and it cracks me up because last year it's like, yeah, no, guys, this is a development split. Proceeds to win both regular seasons, ends a huge in playoffs. This split, he's like, we're gonna win something. Proceeds to just crap out in the first split, not even close. And second split, just like ran out of gas partway through.
I don't know, man. I can't say anything new on this VKS roster. I don't think it was the right direction. I still think it was at least partially forced their hand and not actually the intention. We know it wasn't just partially because Giga, right? So the whole the project is not where it was supposed to be on a baseline. Performance-wise, I think it's far from where it's supposed to be. And you just keep the bot lane and the Samus, and you get new solo laners, man. Because the changes were made there. They're bad. They're bad changes. I don't like them. And, you know, maybe it depends. If we still need time to keep training Leleco, you can't just slot him back in. Like, he looked great when he started, but again, like, people are getting figured out in this league now. You can't just do the same thing. People work out how to deal with certain threats in certain lanes. Seems to be we have developed that skill to respond to power players, which is good. And but that does not leave any room. It seems like it's leaving increasingly less room for Bol, who isn't even being denied like his key champions, really. He's still getting Gwen. Like, they're trying to keep Rumble out of his hands, but not forever. Like, I don't feel like he's being pigeonholed out of a certain way of playing. He's just losing now.
And with Bol too, I do think Bol has performed well enough that I would like him to keep his job, but his role, in a way, I think is more competition than Kissy's, in that there are players in CD who would take at the same level or even above Bol, right? Whereas for Kissy, sure, I said the mid pool is pretty stacked, but the problem there's a lot of, it's pretty deep in CD, but the problem is Kissy's kind of up there. Like, I don't know who would pick above Kissy necessarily from the CD pool, right?
That's actually available,
Yeah, so I do think Kissy's a bit of a problem, but I think it's a problem that CL needs to solve as a coach. This is when you prove your chops as a coach, right? Like, how do you fix a player like this? And if you can't, then you got to find a different solution. Is the solution maybe like bring on Leleco, not necessarily as a full-on replacement for Kissy, but as a six-man that kind of motivates Kissy that, hey, if you're not performing well this week, we're benching you and playing Leleco this week, you know, and play that sort of rotating door. It traditionally has not worked in Brazil, but I don't know, man. This feels more like a mental thing for Kissy than it does like a mechanical thing.
Yeah, it's always tough to say for sure, but that's kind of where I'm leaning, because it is just, it's odd to see him just so hapless.
Yeah, and he always gets one good game too, right? Like,
exactly.
This time it was Victor. Last week was the Tristana game. Like, that tells me his hands are still there. It's just he's not being able to tap into it for some odd reason.
Yeah.
Bring back to Kiwi, man.
Maybe, like, it's...
God, that'd be so fun, dude. I hope he gets another shot, man.
Yeah, there's... there are multiple people that I think right now I would put in, and we've gone from he was at my expectation, which was low, to above them, to back on them, which and when they're losing so much like early on, like it feels like they're making a lot of mistakes in the early games. They're giving away gold, and this is just it's so alien to me that VKS is the one making this many errors in the most plannable, foreseeable part of the game. It just does not seem like the thing that should be plaguing them. And it's something fundamentally, to me, it has to be wrong here, like, if this is happening. So, I don't know. If we see them continue it, like, there's still goodwill left in the tank to see how it goes. They ain't winning Split 3 with this roster, bro. That's not happening. No. But, you know, this is year 2 of the 5-year plan, okay? We can take the original strategy, perhaps, superseding CL's latest declaration on socials. So, yeah, unfortunately, we do have to say goodbye to VKS. 4th place, I think deserving, but absolutely no further, for sure. They're
you still get the MSI boot camp, so...
Yes.
True.
So their time ran out there. After probably should have lost to Red, but Red wouldn't have really been more deserving of this, to be honest.
No.
So I think Red would have gotten equally blasted by IE, to be honest, because IE know how to play League. So IE move on. Furia IE is the setup for the losers final, and then Pain
Saturday
waiting in Grands. Let's quickly take a look at Fantasy after that week before we talk about those matchups. It is getting very sweaty in the top 5 of this league, everybody. RMC is still hanging on to the bottom there, but with one more week of play, it's looking difficult to make the 50-point gap, as Ray holds on to first. Paradox, who has been steadily climbing the ladder every week, it feels like, is now second, 7 points off first. So props to Paradox for quietly outvaluing pretty much everybody in the second half of the region, second half of the split. Lunar still very close behind, about half a point behind Paradox, and then Dark Knight about 30 shy of Lunar Day. So given that there's only 3 teams you can pick from, and you kind of just have to pick the winner, realistically, because if you're getting at this point with this many points, you can kind of afford whatever players you want from both regions. It's gonna be a pretty fine margin. Making a big swing of 50 points or so may be a bit much to ask for RMC, unless you bet it all on Shopify and then they just win. So
I don't have to be number 1. I just have to be Lunar, which isn't happening, by the way, because if Lunar picks Pain players, there's no way I catch up. She'd have to absolutely crack the bed. Also, worth noting this round, the top fantasy in our league, the LTA South League, was Lizard again for the second week straight.
Yeah, IE, just
IE.
riding IEs to the top of the charts. Yeah,
finally coming good.
Yep.
Props to the Gay Mermaids. Absolutely killing it.
I mean, you can also do like LTA North teams, so technically 6 teams, but
yeah,
I don't know.
We've still got Bevo and Seos in contention in LTA North.
They're actually the ones who screwed Lunar's picks because she picked some TL players. Shopify body
foolish.
I will be at that game on Saturday, the Shopify Cloud9 one.
Hey,
going with some friends. So I'm excited for that one. I'll be wearing my Brazil jersey. I'll bring the flag and everything. If they don't put me on broadcast, then fire the whole production staff. I don't care.
Yeah, we will be
seriously. They're all contracted anyway. You could replace them.
We'll be raging
if they don't do that. Yeah,
we'll be raging in chat if there is no hand on cam.
There. Yeah, hate the hand cam.
Yeah, I mean, I hope that they give me something to cheer for. I hope it's not just like a swift 3-0 for Cloud9 and just like Seos just gets absolutely worked. I do think Cloud9 will win that series for whatever it's worth, but
yeah.
If
I'm already proud enough that Shopify made third already, right?
Absolutely, no, they have with the greatest of respect to my boys, they have no business being in top 3, and here they are.
Yeah, they snuck in there while no one was looking.
Yeah, actually, no one was looking. It's like, oh shit, wait, we're out. The Palafox? Where did he come from? He's back.
Palafaker, put some respect on that guy.
No, he's popping the hell off, dude.
Yeah.
Dude, it's still my favorite thing in the world that his last name is Palafox.
Is it?
His government last name is Palafox. His name is Christian Palafox.
That's crazy. Christian Palafox.
Maybe
that's wild.
No, here, yeah, pull up the Wikipedia. Yeah, Christian Palafox.
What's the etymology on that awesome surname?
so funny. That's my favorite bit of LTA North's trivia.
Yeah. That a guy actually has a surname that still works as a gaming handle. That's impressive. Yeah. It was meant to be. Okay, so for this week, finals week, Furia IE first up. IE have swept aside Loud and VKS, both of which, I guess, do we think their opponent has now become hard enough for the games to look hard yet? Because they haven't looked hard for a while. So
for Furia or for IE?
For IE, because they're the ones surging right here.
Yes. I definitely think this is not an easy opponent.
No.
No, you think it is, Hank?
No. I agree. I'm
it's definitely not an easy ride.
No, it is not an easy appointment. No, no. Finally, we don't get to. I'm not going to sit here next week on the podcast and be like, yeah, like I think we're really going to learn about IE when they play. No, I don't see I mean, I suppose there's a universe in which Furia just fold, and maybe IE are that dude, as they say. But I mean, and that would be its own brand of insane. That would be hilarious. But
that would be so Brazilian if that happened.
It's not going to happen. Yeah. It'd also make me really sad because Furia is supposed to be the chosen ones. So they're supposed to be the second best team.
At least go to finals, man. After this split that we've put together.
Yeah. Take the honorable 3-1 loss to Pain in the finals and plan for split 3.
Yeah.
I think IE is to Furia what Shopify is to C9.
Yeah. Maybe.
There's a chance. There's a world.
Oh, there's a chance. There's absolutely a chance.
That's a bigger gap than I expected to be offered, honestly.
Wait. I don't think the gap between C9 and SR is that big. Like it's there, but I wouldn't say it's a chasm. It's bridgeable.
Is it? I don't want to be.
Like, it could happen. Like I wouldn't say it's like out of the realm of impossibility.
It's not impossible.
Disguise versus C9, right? It's not like Fuxu versus Furia. Like it's possible. It's unlikely. I'll give you that, but it's possible.
Yeah, I feel like Furia IE is closer for me than SRC9.
I agree.
I think that IE know how to draft. They don't tie themselves in knots in the draft or the game. They don't overcomplicate the situation. And I think their jungler is crazy in a good way. And top lane, when they played in regular season, Summit was completely invalidated, was not present in that game, and I don't think that's going to be the case here. I think he is settled in now, and they know how they want to play with him now, and Gigo might win, or might really, really lose. From moment to moment, as he always does. I think, like, because Ayu and Jojo have still been on a relatively flat trajectory for weeks, I would say. Going from the first Pain match into playoffs, into second Pain match. It has been a while since Ayu and Jojo really lit a fire in their games. Snaker and Ackerman are no longer a weak point in the way they were 3 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. And I just think if you don't get that big Furia acceleration, I think it's hard to pick almost anyone over IE in like a slow, controlled game right now. I think they're so good at that. Pain are also good at it, but they don't necessarily feel like they're good at playing out a slow, controlled game. It just feels like if you don't act fast enough, like you'll lose out. But it feels different for IE. It doesn't feel like they're like waiting to pounce on you like a trap or whatever, but like it's, I don't know, I don't want to bet against them in like an even game state at 30 minutes, you know what I mean? At this point.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder, this is going to be a really fun series to watch. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I guess for me, my perspective is I think Furia's going to come out swinging. I don't think they were happy with how they played against
for sure they will. They'll go out, they'll come out swinging, and if need be, they'll go down swinging. That has been proven from them, is that they don't sit by and let games end on them. If IE hold them, I think they're still favored when you get to that super late point right now. But Furia are going to go down, dying, like losing fights 3-4 all the way until their Nexus explodes, kind of thing, because that's just what they do now, which is sick, and I love that.
Yeah. Which makes the series fun.
Yes, it does. It is going to be a fun series for sure.
I just think Tuts, Ayu, and Jojo, like they're going to unleash all hell on the Rift this week. Especially Ayu and Jojo. I think if our thinking is right, and they just seem to have some sort of like block against Titan Curry, Like against any other bot lane, I think they're just gonna like, okay, I'm so frustrated, we couldn't do anything against that duo. Like if we can do anything to you, we are gonna do everything to you. So for those reasons, I think Fury's gonna like they're gonna be an absolute menace this week. I do agree though, Trajan, and I think a lot of what you're saying was kind of swaying my thoughts. Because yeah, like Isra Zestral is scaling up fantastically. They are very methodical. And if you give them time, it just feels like they know how to use that time really, really well. I'm just gonna bank on the fact that Fury's not gonna give them that time. Like even in the games against Pain, like if Pain couldn't kind of stifle them in the lanes, they would take over. Right? That was game 1, game 3, where like Furia was kind of driving a lot of the early game action. And sure, like yes, game 1 was a throw from Pain's side, and they were in the lead. But let's not forget, like it took Roamer desperately clinging on for dear life in the mid game to get Pain to the point where they could even throw the game. So Fury had definitely had an early game, which I don't know if Isra Zestral is quite ready to handle yet. Like I won't say they can't.
Yeah.
I think they've improved enough, and they showed us in split one they can when they're on form. But my trust is still Fury. I think I'd call for. Ooh, how spicy do I feel right now? I'm gonna call for Fury 3-0.
3-0. That's crazy. Dang.
I'll say 3-2. I think I have a ton of momentum right now. They're 6-1 in their last 7 games, right? They have just dispatched some teams. They're playing fast and loose, and to y'all's point, like they seem to have finally, I'm not even going to say figured out their identity, but they are consistently drafting towards their identity, because I think we could have all figured. I mean, Snaker,
we've been calling for it for most of the split.
Is there a difference between playing supportive AD carries and just like hard scaling, sit back and don't try to do much AD carries? I'd say in some respects, yes, but like they have honed in on what works best for them finally.
Yeah.
So as long as they don't deviate from that, they will give Furia a scare. Furia are going to have to work for this one.
Yeah. I'm not going to bet against Furia. I said I wasn't going to bet against them until they get eliminated. I said that weeks ago, and I'm not going to stop doing it now.
Did you bet against them last week against Pain?
No, I bet Furia.
No, he didn't.
Fair enough. Respect.
Yeah.
I think it could have easily been Pain 3-2, but it could have also been Pain 3-0. Like these games, multiple games, at least half the games were won by the wrong team, it seems like. So I'm gonna take 3-2 Fury as well. I think IE are real hot. I think this series is going to be really fun for sure. I think this is going to be an absolute clanger. I wonder about how mid lane's going to look. I think Pain had a very good strategy against Tuts in terms of the way they drafted, especially game 4. I think they were banning out the perfect picks, like taking his LeBlanc away. Like they were taking away the picks where I was like, how does Tuts sway this series back? And they really effectively, they pushed him onto Syndra and then rammed down on him, and he couldn't do anything that game. He just got absolutely shut out. It was very good neutralizing of Tuts, which we don't see often because he does have such a zany pool at times, but they managed to clamp him down to it. So and with Miryu just going so hard against Kissy, like Tuts does trade pretty heavily. Miryu also trades really heavily, and they're gonna be like going at it in mid lane. And I have no idea how that's gonna go, but I think that's where I'm gonna be looking, is Tuts Miryu for the kind of swing factor, to be honest.
Sure.
So yeah, I won't bet against Furia. I will stay strong, but I was close, honestly. I was close. If I hadn't already said I wasn't going to, IE looked so clean. I want Furia to make it. I want the Brazilian final. I just want Furia to be there either way, to be honest. I wouldn't mind them against IE or them against Pain as a final, but even if it's IE Pain...
I actually want the Pain IE final, though. Like that would be like split one first season.
In some respects, yeah. I think if I was to divorce that from the context of how well Furia have played and how badly I want them to succeed, I think like narratively there is something.
It is still a good through line from split one for sure. After Pain flopped in split one, can come back carrying Brazil on the shoulders to stop IE, another season of IE dominance, boring the fans, as it were.
And if I were somehow pull out the win, that'd be also
It's also
insane,
sick,
right? Like
their journey in Split 2 has been wild.
yeah.
So
Yeah. Then maybe Karaoke gets kicked, and we see
Because I don't think has any team in Brazil ever done the lower gauntlet run from like truly from round 1 to the end.
From round 1 to the end, I doubt it.
Like, who actually won it? I don't think so. Right?
I think Loud have only gone from second round to the end.
Yeah, does that? Yeah, I mean, not that it's really changed my answer. I don't know either way, but do you mean like, is it still qualify for this if you get bounced in the first round of the upper bracket, or do you have to start in the lower bracket?
I mean, there were some splits where everybody was double them all the way, right? Where top 2 teams just got by, so everybody had.
Because I think Loud got bounced by Kaboom in a round 1 at some point, and then won. I think.
Wait, wasn't? Excuse me. Wasn't the Red 2022 split 1? Didn't they get 3-0'd by Kaboom in the upper bracket and then come all the way back to win it? Hold on.
Good question. Let's take a quick look. No, they didn't. They because that one was bottom 2, 5 and 6 had single life, right? Because that was the Liberty NetShoes Miners bottom 7. So technically, it's not the full gauntlet run.
Yeah.
But you lost more games.
You did?
If anything, you're an even bigger loser than the losers bracket teams are.
2022 split 1. Red finished 3rd. They get knocked out by Kaboom 3-0. And then, I guess they were in like the second loser's position. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So they're probably the closest we've ever had. Because I think it's only in 2022 that we even started the whole gauntlet, like double elimination.
We don't have like a 5th, 6th seed that makes it and wins. I don't think we've had.
Prior to that, it was single elimination with first 2 getting the bye.
Yep. 2021 was single elim.
But yeah, if IU could make it, that would be history making.
Yeah, I think Furia made it to 3rd with like the IU roster. I think they made
the Super Furia kids, right?
Yeah, I think they made it to 3rd from losers. But yeah, that's it. And then you locked up.
I mean, the narratives would be really great if we could get IE Pain. And here's the thing: even though I'm calling for a Furia 3-0, I don't think it's going to be a cakewalk. Like, I think it's going to be a Furia struggle within the games. I just think Furia's always going to come.
Could be like the Pain Furia series, to be honest. Even if it had been a 3-0, it would be like, but they had to really try to make this happen for sure. So yeah, whoever wins, there's value and there's narrative value to it. None of them, I think, are going to be bad representatives of the LTA South at this point, at least if they continue to play at this level. And top 1 goes to MSI. So I don't think there's no like in the kind of where we've had past splits where like Red could somehow sneaked out like a win and then we'd be pretty confident they would get absolutely ranched at international. And like Loud, whenever they keep winning, we're like, they're just gonna lose again. Like this, they've managed to stop anyone cool from qualifying and now they're gonna get destroyed at international. And then they did 4 times. So it doesn't feel like that.
At least Root got the first penta of the entire tournament.
We have the favorite is the team that qualified us the group stage at Worlds for the first time in many since that was a thing you had to do and didn't just get to start in. So like we're gonna be good. I think we're gonna have a decent time. I would like to imagine.
I've got thoughts about that, but we can say that for next episode when we actually have our rep and we can talk about.
Yes. Let's just quickly
finals.
We're
gonna talk about finals.
So we all think Fury is gonna win. So
no, 4-4 thinks IE is gonna win.
No, I said Furia 3-2. I apologize. If I said IE, I misspoke. No.
Okay. You just said 3-2. But it's a 3-2 Furia. So we all think Furia's going to win. So I think you'd already mentioned RMC that you'd give them like a gentleman's 3-1 loss against Pain. Or was it ER404 or somebody? I think
I said that, yeah.
Yeah, just take the 3-1.
Yeah.
Good for you. Thank you for playing. RMC, are you willing to give them a gentleman's 3-1 or...
Here's the problem.
The 3-0 they should have received last time? Or?
Stupid game.
Exactly. So it'll be a 3-1.
3-1. But I would really like for Pain to 3-0 because I know they can do it. Like, I have no doubt they can 3-0 this. So, screw the stats. Screw my head. We're going to the heart. I want to Pain 3-0.
3-0?
It could happen.
Yeah.
It could happen. That wouldn't surprise me.
It would be fair and reasonable if it did. I mean, I wasn't going to bet against Fury until they got to finals. I'm allowed to bet against them now. They're assumedly in finals. But
Fair enough, yeah.
like 3-2 would be so sick, though. It'd be so sick if they won 3-2,
It would be.
man.
It'd be a banger.
It'd be so good. It would be like, this is...
I don't know if there's a hot take. I don't think Pain lose a game unless they lose the game. I don't think Fury can take a game from Pain.
Fury have taken 2
if
games
it's
from
3-2
Pain already this year. The regular season
No,
game,
Pain have
Furia
gifted them
just
games.
walked on them. Like, Furia can take games from Pain.
I don't know if my Pain's actually coming through. I don't know if I agree with that.
In the interest of trying to actually be correct, I think it's probably 3-1 Pain. I don't think it's... I will happily be there popping off if Furia 3-2, but the prize isn't me getting the prediction right, it's Furia going to MSI. So I think Pain 3-1 is the actual answer.
Okay.
Pain always have the game. Furia are sick, but they're not quite sick enough yet. So that's probably going to be it. Right. Let's take a couple of questions from the Discord. Lunar Day. Actually, no, let's do the carryover question quickly first that we didn't get to last time, I guess, which was, who do we think the Brazilian or the LTA South representative is going to be at LTA Finals in Texas, which is the cross-conference final in Texas, which has the top 6 teams, 3 from each.
I think so.
Yep.
So, I mean, does anyone think
I
the
guess
top
who do we
3 is
think
not
that's
going to be
about?
the same, basically, as a starting point in Split 3?
I mean, I don't know, because it seems to vary wildly. Like, I'm sure we'll get our fair share of surprises.
Yeah,
in
it's
Split
supposed to
3,
go
right?
back to last,
Leviathan-
and then they'll...
Yeah, exactly. Who knows?
Conceivably see Leviathan make a top 3 run.
That'd be
Like,
so
it's
funny.
possible, like
Yeah.
what they did in Split 1.
Maybe the new red just sweeps, you know?
True,
They
yeah,
get
the red
Kaze
green
in,
don't- actually,
the FMB sticks around, they get... Who's a jungler that's actually good?
Doom is an Academy champion jungler, Trajan.
Well, you know, like... Kicking and screaming, yes, he is. There was a lot of suspicious Doom play going on, I think, at the latter stages of Red's Academy run.
Oh no. Yeah, maybe. I think it'll be paid for you somehow. I'd be stunned. It'd be a huge disappointment if they didn't finish
to that degree. They're not.
It would be a massive disappointment.
They would absolutely have to melt for something to go wrong, like to not be top 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, gun to head, probably IU be my 3rd team, given the way they're playing right now and the way they're scaling up.
And they just got experience. Like,
Yeah.
it seems
And
like they've
won't
really
change
settled into an
anything this
identity that
time.
works really well. Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll-
Like, unless the meta shifts drastically away from, which screws Jose Deodo or Snaker hard. Like, I think they'll be fine. Again, to me, if there's a different 3rd team, it would just be like either Red or Lev just absolutely popping off. But
Nutcade?
right as they stand right now,
Nah.
it's IE. He's got the highest odds.
No Cade. No Cade for me.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, no.
They switch it to like Bandle City season, and you can only play Yordles, and there aren't any supportive Yordles you can play in bot lane, and Snaker becomes unplayable and retires. Yeah, I think I don't know who I would put in front of them because the only contesting teams, one of them is VKS. I don't think they have the source. I don't think they come higher than 4th ever. Red and Loud are rebuilds, so to some degree we don't know what they're going to look like. I could see Loud sneaking into 3rd, depending on who their mid is. To be honest, I could see them louding their way through. Red, I doubt they make it to top 3 in the first split of whatever they're doing now. I think it's just
That'd be
it
crazy.
really depends who their coach is and like how they address that whole thing. And if it's just the same, then I don't think they go anywhere.
Also, organizationally, I don't trust Loud as much as I do Red. Like for all Reds had issues forever. Like I feel a lot of it's been Coelho and Aegis, but I think their organization and the fact that they kept an academy team and has actually developed an incredible academy team, which I think could actually contest quite a few of the LTA South teams. Like that org gives me more hope than Loud, who just went here, money, good team, go. You know, and hasn't really developed anything.
I think for this split, I think Red and Loud both, they looked as bad as each other to me. Like Red's Academy team won, which is really good.
But Red was funnier.
Red was funnier, but like Loud, they both like pivoted their strategy, their backroom strategy multiple times this year. Like Loud did the Winsome Wiz Aoshi thing and then just completely dropped that and did all that nonsense. And then Red has done the Aegis Grevthar do Margot nonsense, like with all the sort of rumors and justifications flying around. I think they're both as bad as each other, honestly. I think they're both somewhat clown shows. And like the Academy roster, to me, I feel like Red struck gold and did not like alchemically create gold. You know what I mean?
Oh, I disagree with that. Last year, this was pretty much the same roster, right? With the exception of the mid lane, which I think was Aituza, if I recall correctly. They kept their roster. And last year, Red Academy was not a top 3 team. Yeah. And so like they actually grew this roster properly. They trained this roster. They didn't just swap them out for good players. So that's to fair. Me, like that's why I have a bit more faith in Red as an organization.
Who is their coach of the? Do they have a coach for Div 2, like a separate coach?
They do. It's I want to say it's Vincenzo. Wait, hold on. I don't want to butcher this.
Is it my boy VV Vert?
No.
Uzi Vert.
It's Vinician.
Sure.
And Strazi. And last year I recognize Strazi's name. Let me double check who their coach was last split too when they.
Fair enough. Not a name I recognize, but maybe one to be remembered. One to have an eye kept on. Yeah.
VV Vert, by the way, was the guy who the most random CBLOL team to ever win the split 2. Team 1. Never forget. Team 1.
Yes.
VV Vert, 4LAN, no idea. Brucer and Marf, and then Absolute and Redbert, CBLOL champion. And VV Vert also used to be known as Edger.
Great.
We were talking about something else, though.
Perfect. Excellent stuff. Thank you, VVVert /Edger. Okay. So that's fair enough. I'll give you that.
Lanternino, by the way, was the coach from last
year.
Lanternino.
I do recognize that name, actually. Okay. Fine. I will give you that. I will give that half of Red's backroom is not in a shambles.
Fair enough. I'll take that.
So, anyway, see, I don't think anyone else other than IE looks right now they could take it. Depending on what rosters Loud and Red slap together, depending on if VKS make changes, maybe we could see any one of those step up and Leviathan might just decide to become cracked again. Like, these kind of things happen, but top 2 for sure, Pain Fury, and then we just see who the last exciting contestant is. Right, for Lunde's question this week, I'm going to ask the age-old question of rest versus rush. Do you think it's truly an advantage not to play compared to coming off a win the day before? Also, do you feel different if it was in an arena versus Riot Studio versus online? I mean, there's a lot of facets to that. I personally am a rusher. I'm not a rester. I think that you should have done your rest before playoffs, or like up to that point, up to that last stage, you should have been resting, especially if we're in winners finals. You do get a natural rest. So like the lower bracket, I prefer that of having like your win under your belt the day before or the week before, and then you go on to the grand finals. I prefer that. I think that's a better stimulus.
And I think especially if you are in person, there is a certain amount of like adrenaline, right, that can fuel the rushers, right? Because if you've got good vibes, you talked, like, hey, okay, you've got the best team waiting for you on the other side. Let's take the lower bracket example. But you come off a win, right? Whether it's hard fought or a stomp, either one could give you different degrees of confidence, right? But I think it might also, benefit a younger team if you can just kind of like, if you're just constantly distracted by like any sort of like anything that can derail you before you can get in your own head, and something like that, right? Like, and yeah, you could just momentum and vibes your way into a win.
Yep. I think usually I'm more of a rusher, for the reasons you all mentioned, like being able to focus in. The more games, the reps help. And with the younger team, 100% I agree 4-4. Like the experience it gives you, the extra stage time always helps, and being focused and not distracted, massive. I think if you're an older team like Pain or Loud, resting could potentially be better. But with full Fearless, I'm actually switching over to resting now because I actually do think draft matters, and showing your cards the day before could put you at a disadvantage because now all your pocket picks, if the lower finals game is a close one, you have to show some of your cards, and that gives the other team a chance to prep for them because of the way full Fearless works. So I'm leaning a bit more towards resting right now, but largely I still think rushing's better. Even now, if we go full Iron Man, where even the bans carry over, at that point I'm fully on resting. But for right now, I still think rushing is better for most teams.
And yeah, I think getting, especially when you have these newer players, there's almost always one that hasn't been on a stage before at this point.
Yeah.
And having at least like a win on the stage, as opposed to first time on the stage, you don't know what's going to happen, is definitely big for confidence and for comfort. So online, I think I think online's just a kind of a crapshoot, to be honest. Like we saw during COVID, so many esports just got completely upended in terms of their power structures and their power rankings, and who's a good team, who's a bad team, who's a good player, who's a bad player, because
who's got good internet, who's living in Goya.
It just does not. Online is just too hard to predict. There's so many other factors there where the person is not in a controlled environment necessarily. It's just impossible to say. Like it's an on the day thing. Literally, it's just, is this a good day? Is this not for online? But yeah, even studio as well. But like stage especially, like arena especially, I think getting that first win is so big, and especially at that moment. There's like getting more games and time on a patch is helpful, but I think RMC is right that in Fearless, the information asymmetry, like being in your favor, is more important now. Being able to hold that smolder top like until you need it, or whatever it is.
Yep.
So
that Jhin mid.
Hold that Jhin mid. Hold that Jhin mid. We'll see it. Let's see it, Tuts. All right. Dark Knight wants to spread some misinformation online by the looks of it, and wants us to
Hell yeah.
I want to start one of those silly little narratives online. Which one of these do you think would get the most likes? First, CL is a fraud. It's going hard.
That would get you lynched.
That would.
Actually, yeah, right.
Right now, that might be some numbers.
Right now, true. Actually, now is the time. You're right. Now is the time.
The second option is Isra Sestral will go to the finals, 3-0 Pain, and start a loud dynasty in the LTA. That doesn't even seem that insane to me right now, to be honest. Just watching.
I think that seems a little bit insane to me right now.
I think
that would get you a lot of Spanish-speaking likes.
yeah, that would get you the entirety of
a lot of me gustas.
Chile would be behind you. But 3-0ing Pain, it's like watching a Pain collapse on the day, or even a really closest 3-0 you've ever seen kind of series. I'd be fair enough. And then they gradually eke out a dynasty. They don't just become they're just better than everyone the whole time. It's more like Loud, where every time they look like they're probably about to lose or someone's ready to defeat them, and then they just don't quite do it for 4 splits, which is what Loud did. They never looked like they were actually way better than everyone else. They won.
Well, but they looked like they were way better than Pain. So all they had to do was
they were way better than
the
Pain
finals
in the finals only. They only looked better than Pain in the final, and maybe the first regular or the second regular split game.
No, I had a graphic about how many times Pain won against Loud during that dynasty. It was very few. I don't know where that graphic went, but
it was the latter half maybe that Pain started to look truly inconceivable how they managed to lose.
Before that,
finals.
Loud were bodying them pretty much every series after the Dinkido Tinowns swap and all that.
I think if nothing else, if we're speaking, maybe this is a bit of a buzzkill way to interpret this, but just the fact that IE have to wrangle with Pro Rel every single split, I think that can throw some wrenches into your plans. And the fact that they've got 4 CEOs. I'm going to bring that up every chance I get because I think that's the stupidest shit.
Until they don't have 4 CEOs? He's going to mention
until they whittle down the number of CEOs to a minimum 2.
One CEO and Lev couldn't win a split. Multiple CEOs and you're in LTA North.
Like, what's
Sorry.
thoughts?
Because if they just on the day are like, oh no, we lost to, maybe in 2 years Flamengo have their shit together, and all of a sudden lose to Flamengo.
Oh, imagine. Yeah, they can 3-0 Pain and then get relegated in the same slot. That's what they can do.
Funniest time.
That's the funniest time.
They could. Yeah, and it's like, okay, well, there goes your dynasty, and like that sucks. And I feel like I'm almost like I'm just pooping on the spirit of the question.
It's the kind of thing
but
that
like,
Loud absolutely could have done at the height of their powers.
100%.
Like,
dude. Yeah, you lose to Pain Academy of all things,
and you rock up in the off season, half asleep, and
I just can't see Pain losing 3-0. Like, I can't even see them losing the series against IE, much less 3-0.
He doesn't want to see it, chat. He doesn't want to see it.
No, I just genuinely, the way Pain's playing right now, I don't see them losing against any of these teams in the best of 5.
Yeah, they're definitely they're the clear favorites in all of them.
Yeah, like maybe in split 3 things can change. I'm just saying, like right now, as of split 2, I just can't see that happening.
Yeah, in terms of a silly little narrative online, it's unlikely they're going to 3-0 Pain. So that will get you a lot of comments. That will not get you a lot of.
I don't even know if people would even interact with that one that much, because it just feels like
Oh, they'll be like they'll hit him with a that's bait, and
it feels like something Liz would post. That's what.
That's fair enough. Third option is House has always been better than Tinowns, but didn't have Robo to carry him, which is just bonkers. It's just
Wait, did Dark post this before, like Tinowns' retirement?
This was before the retirement. Yeah, this was 7th of June. It's dated there.
Yep.
So
okay. Yep. So right now, I don't think that would even get a lot of likes. You'd get a lot of comments. You'd probably get
replies. You would get swatted a couple times. Like this wouldn't be good. I'm not a fool. House is not better than Tinowns. He just got knocked out of round 1 CD playoffs? Like 3-0 out of round 1?
Because they knocked down Stella in round 1, which created the Cinderella narrative.
Okay. Round 2 of playoffs. 3-0'd. And the thing about Tinowns is even this split, after we'd seen the fall off kind of had already been building, he can carry a game. And
if he gets Ari, he can still do it.
House, as valuable of an individual piece as he is, you cannot give the whole game to him to win, because he won't do it.
Not consistently.
Yeah.
No. If you have a good roster around him, like the Kaboom roster, he is like, you'll never have a problem with his lane. You can fit his pool into basically any draft, because it's just like a lot of mages and like Ari and control mage and stuff that fit into most things. But you cannot have the whole map burn down and then go, House, you're 3-0. Everything else has gone to pot. We need you to step up. Because he will die in the side lane 7 times, and then you'll lose.
That Dark Knight's making, that Tinowns couldn't carry his teams either. He had good KDA, but when the chips were down, he always had Robo in back pocket, and between Robo and Tinowns, they could carry games.
I feel like Tinowns was rarely like Tinowns is popping off, but everything else has gone wrong. I don't think we saw a lot of games like that. But you do see House is popping off, the game has gone to pot, and then you lose. Whereas like Tinowns, I don't think, was in that position as much. So
never had to be, though.
Maybe he just never had to be. Maybe he has had Robo to carry.
I don't know, man. Aside from Seos, he didn't exactly play. Aside from Seos and Root, he didn't play with any like model of consistency players.
Oh,
right?
Definitely not models of consistency. But he always had like big carries with him. And I don't. Again, I'm trying to think of how many. Like, there's very few examples I can think of in my head where Tinowns is the one guy popping off and he wins games, which seems to be the argument that Trajan's making, that House pops off and can't win games solo. But can Tinowns pop off solo and win games?
I think he could. This isn't even like, I don't think it's even like my Tinowns biased.
I think that he could too, but I'm just saying that like historically in terms of evidence, like he's rarely.
Sure. No. House has had higher highs, right? House is probably a better, I don't know, solo queue player, right? Or I don't know, like I think like individual moments, he's had more like highlight reel plays, right? Like I think of that game winning Azir shuffle, right? That he fed Brunsey that pentakill or that quadra or whatever, right? But then you have Tinowns like the I think in, I don't know if it was 2024 split 1, 2023 split 2. Like it was the Tinowns. It was against Pain, of course. They always kick off with Loud Pain. and it was the one where he went like bot river with a Lysandra over the wall and just got like a 9-man stun, and then they just went off that.
Yeah,
like he has those moments.
I think he has the same highs as Tinowns. I think I don't want to undersell the highs that Tinowns has had. I think House could match Tinowns, could match prime Tinowns in terms of his impact on a game. And when he was on when they were both on strong teams, I think they could have similar performances. But I think maybe even House would maybe even be statistically even stronger at times as part of a strong whole. But he doesn't have that like X factor when the chips are down kind of thing that I think Tinowns. I mean, he's always had a much longer career, there's a much bigger sample size to review through 13 years of gameplay for Tinowns. But I don't know. Yeah, we just saw too many like doesn't know how to navigate this complex situation kind of thing. We're louder, like we're the kings of the how did they get out of this jam kind of for a long time, and I just don't think Hauser does that really. I don't think he drags teams out of bad situations. He can't individually be that person, where Tinowns I think probably can or has been able to.
Like in the last 6 years, we've seen House be in situations where House kind of doesn't know where we go. Like, House, what are you doing?
Yeah, does not know what to do.
And there's never been a situation where I go like Tinowns doesn't seem to know what he's doing. It's a situation where I go Tinowns doesn't give a crap about his team because they're feeding their faces off.
Yeah,
and he's just about pushing. And
Tinowns was always a more malleable player. He could play like I think you put Tinowns on Galio and stuff like that. You put him on Twisted Fate, you can expect him to be sacrificial, right? And so like that could in some respects you don't remember those games as much, right? But real ball knowers, they know that Tinowns was what his team needed him to be, and that's part of why he had such an incredibly long career. He survived so many metas.
100% win rate swing that doesn't have highlight moments, but that thing never lost.
It certainly doesn't lose. And the last option is Pain is the next team doomed to dominate their region and then flop horribly internationally, which would be a tragic tale.
There's a chance. There's always a chance.
Not the reality we live in.
I was gonna say, right? So Pain has to be the one to break the mold.
They've already had one non-flop, which is a good start.
True.
True. It was pretty close, but it was a non-flop. And they go into MSI especially when it's just top one,
and have to face G2 in play-ins. What the hell is that all about?
That's free, bro. G2's washed up.
Hey, Brazil traditionally does better against Europe than they do against North America. So I take that. I'm fine with that.
It's true. We beat Fnatic in 2022 with the Curse of the Sad Bullet time.
Yeah, with the bot gap. I think that the thing that gets you the most likes is CL as a fraud right now, because it's just the moment is right for CL as a fraud.
Yes, 100%.
The Isurus Estral one will, as we said, get you a section of the fan base will really love that. And I think the other two will get you lots of replies and no comments and no likes. So when we see you posting that CL is a fraud,
the last one shouldn't even get you that much interactions if Pinzechis then just go nuts about it. But Pinzechis will go nuts. So.
The loud fans will jump on that and go, see, it's not easy. Like, you all hated on us for flying internationally, but let's see you head to MSI and not get absolutely crushed by AL or whatever. Okay. Last question is from Luna Day. I would like to take a second to complain about production staff using too much of a similar script with IE and SR. Shopify and Isurus Estral. An underperforming team ramping up in playoffs and making finals weekend. Can we please get something different in summer? Now, they are on pretty similar trajectories in that individual split. Contextually, completely opposite, of course. So the fact that it is a mirrored story with a different context, in fact, makes it even more compelling, is my argument. That we have the same exact script, but with two completely different starting points and teams and players of histories. That's my offering to defend the production staff for copy and pasting between North and South.
Yeah, I have no problem with copying the script. I like that. It's a hit, the box office wonder. We just run it back.
Yeah,
I'm fine with that.
and there is the problem that SR is definitely going to get smashed by C9, and IE might actually make it, I think, so to finals. So I think this is probably where the stories might diverge a little bit.
People say, prove Trajan wrong, man.
Dude,
I would love that.
No.
Oh, I'd love that,
Dude.
man.
If SR win, I would do a shoey or something.
Dude, I'm checking. I'm calling they fixed it so Ludwig could stream more of it. Like that's what I'm saying. If SR beats C9,
true, dude, that streamer money, dude. Hey, Saudi money and streamer money, man. We know where the sausage gets made.
He is a generationally.
SR stands for streamer revenue, though. You gotta get
SR stands for streamer revenue.
In many ways, he is a generationally lucky streamer in terms of how many of his concepts just work out the best possible way for no reason. And this is just another one. It's just another one in the long line of unexplained.
Toast
logic
is crying in
that
his corner. Toast did it first.
Yep, it's
Toast is sitting, Toast punching the air
Toast
right now.
where is my Cinderella run? What the hell?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Okay, we'll see if IE can do it. We'll see. I'll look even closer to see if SR can do it. That would be crazy. But we will be there supporting. And 404, you will be supporting in person. So everybody, make sure to watch the LTA North stream as well, and try and spot the 4i4 in the Brazilian jersey, which will hopefully be nice and bright.
Brazilian jersey, and I'm bringing. I'm bringing this bad boy.
Oh,
let's go.
Full
the flag.
I actually didn't even buy this. I got this at a bachelor party. We did we did themed games. It was like Olympics themed. We split up into teams and did activities throughout the day. And of course, because I was one of the people that helped plan it, I was like, well, I'm going to be on Team Brazil, and I actually don't care what you guys think. We came in second. We lost to Team Tonga.
What was the score?
We won. I think we might have had. I think it was one of those things where we might have had more golds, but the overall medal count went in Team Tonga's favor. In the physical games, Team Tonga actually kind of true to form. I hate to say it, they had one kid who literally weighed 270 pounds and was 6'4". So in a lot of the pool basketball and things like that, the more physical contests, everyone was my size as well. Team Brazil, actually, I was the largest person on Team Brazil. I am 5'8", 160 pounds.
Yeah, that's tough.
Is this all more accurate then?
This is all canon.
So,
this is all canon.
We came up against a physical mismatch that at the end of the day we just didn't have the tools to operate around. But you know what? We gave it a hell of an effort.
Unfortunate. Okay, so you can check out Spot 4i4 on the LTA North stream this weekend, and you could also probably spot him on the cast this weekend for LTA South if you want to see him face on.
Sure.
On Saturday, Sunday, usual times as well, both losers finals and grand finals this weekend, Saturday and Sunday. So you don't want to miss it, guys. Follow us all the usual places, Twitter, Twitch, join the Discord, LTA South, everywhere that we can achieve it, and the community Discord where you can submit questions, and we'll answer them on the podcast. Thank you, everybody, for watching/listening. We will see you this weekend for the conclusion, the exciting conclusion of Split 2.